Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a stack of documents on the table today that are, and I really don't say this lightly, some of the most complex, detailed, and I think potentially paradigm-shifting material we've ever covered.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic today for sure.
We're effectively looking at the invisible infrastructure of the world.
We are, but it tackles a feeling that, that I think everyone listening has probably felt at some point. It addresses a very, very specific human anxiety.
That feeling of being a cosmic orphan.
That's it, exactly.
You know the feeling I'm talking about. You walk outside at night, maybe you're just taking out the trash or something. You look up at the stars, and you just feel this crushing sense of isolation. Like Earth is just this chaotic little blue marble spinning in a complete void, totally unnoticed by the rest of the universe.
And then you turn on the news.
Oh, yeah. You turn on the news, you see wars, corruption, political confusion, and the overwhelming conclusion most of us reach is nobody is at the wheel.
We are alone in the dark. It is, I think, the prevailing sentiment of the modern age.
Right.
Existential isolation. We look at all the chaos and we just assume it means absence.
But the source material we're breaking down today, and we're focusing specifically on Chapter 4, which is a deep analysis of paper 114 from the Urantia book, is essentially a total counter-argument to that entire worldview.
It is.
It claims that not only is there someone at the wheel, but the bridge of the ship is actually, well, it's crowded.
It posits a planetary government. And I think we need to be really clear about what that means right off the bat.
Right, because when I say planetary government, I know what people think. They immediately think of conspiracy theories.
The guys in smoke-filled rooms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about a deep state government. We aren't talking about people deciding interest rates or plotting global domination. We are talking about a spiritual administration.
A literal celestial bureaucracy that is operating right here, right now, just out of our normal visual range.
It's a fascinating document because, I mean, it reads like a corporate organizational chart. It really does. It details the hierarchy, the departments, the personnel, the specific mandates of the beings running this planet.
But the premise has a twist, and this is what makes the source material so unique.
Go on.
The government described in paper 114 isn't the standard model. It's a crisis management team.
That was the hook for me. That was what really grabbed me. I mean, usually you'd expect a religious text to say, everything is perfect, God is in control, don't worry.
Right, a very placid, reassuring message.
But this source, it calls our planet Urantia, and it makes a very specific point, that Urantia is not being run like a normal, well-behaved world.
Far from it.
We are an emergency case, so our government reflects that. It's an emergency government.
It's a provisional administration, one designed specifically to handle a world that has, for lack of a better term, gone off the rails.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear, I think. We want to map out who these administrators are, how they function, and we're going to get into the 12 core of angels, which is just mind-blowing stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And finally, we're going to talk about the reserve core of destiny, which is where human beings, actual living people, get involved.
But before we get to the angels and the secret agents, for want of a better word.
Right. We need to set the stage. Why? Why do we have this weird provisional emergency government in the first place?
Well, to understand the government we have, you have to understand the government we lost.
Okay.
The source describes a massive cosmic event called the Caligastia Rebellion. And this took place roughly 200,000 years ago.
And Caligastia, he was the planetary prince.
Correct. So in the cosmology presented here, a normal planet, one that hasn't had a rebellion, is assigned a planetary prince very early in its history.
What is that exactly?
Yeah.
A planetary prince.
He's a high spiritual being, a son of God from a specific order who descends to the planet, establishes a visible headquarters.
Visible? Like a physical place you could go to.
Yes, visible and accessible. And he stays for hundreds of thousands of years. His entire job is to guide the evolution of civilization, of culture, of spirituality. He is the captain of the ship.
Imagine that. Imagine living in a world where there's a visible, immortal governor that everyone just knows is there. No debate.
It would change everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
our captain mutinied.
He did. Caligastia betrayed his trust.
He aligned himself with what's called the Lucifer Rebellion, which was a system-wide insurrection against the universe authorities. It wasn't just him.
So this was a bigger deal than just one guy on one planet.
Oh, much bigger.
Yeah.
But for our purposes, what matters is that he declared himself the absolute sovereign of Earth and tried to cut off the planet from the rest of the universe. He wanted to run things his way with no oversight.
So effectively, the governor declares independence, shuts down the communications array, and then barricades the doors.
That's a perfect analogy. And when a planetary prince abandons his post or rebels, it throws the entire spiritual economy of the world into utter chaos.
How so? What happens?
The normal circuits of spiritual energy and communication are severed. They're cut off, partly to prevent the rebellion, the sin virus, from spreading to other worlds.
So we were quarantined.
In a sense, yes. The source uses a very potent analogy here. It's like a ship losing its captain in the middle of a violent storm. The crew is confused, the navigation is broken, and the ship is just drifting.
So for 200,000 years, we've been the drift ship.
That's us.
We've been trying to figure out civilization without the standard help, without the captain on the bridge. But the universe doesn't just let us crash, right? This is where the emergency part comes in.
It does. They don't just abandon the ship.
So who stepped in? Who took the wheel when Caligastier went rogue?
This is where we get introduced to the concept of the Most High Observer. When the rebellion happened, the higher government, specifically the constellation government, on a sphere called Identitia intervened.
So the regional office.
The regional office, exactly. They realized the local management had failed, catastrophically. So they dispatched what's called a Verondidek's son to assume emergency oversight.
Let's clarify Verondidek's son for the listener, because these names can get a little esoteric. In the hierarchy of this book, that's a heavy hitter.
A very, very heavy hitter.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, a planetary prince like Caligastia is a Lananandek's son. That's a lower order of sonship designed for close contact with mortals.
Okay.
A Verondidek's son is from the constellation level. The rulers of 100 systems like ours. It's like the regional CEO of a massive corporation stepping in to run a single franchise store because the local manager set the place on fire.
Wow. Okay, so it is a massive overqualification for the role.
Completely. And that alone shows you how serious the situation was. They didn't just send a substitute teacher. They sent the superintendent of the entire district.
And the title is key, right? Most High Observer.
Yes. Usually these beings just observe. They inspect. They travel. They review. They report back. But on Urantia, because of the rebellion, because of our unique history, they have a different mandate.
And the source mentions we are currently on our, our 23rd observer since the rebellion?
Yeah, the 23rd. And if you do the math that the text provides, roughly 200,000 years divided by 23.
You're looking at a tenure of about 10,000, maybe 11,000 years for each one.
Exactly. These aren't beings just popping in for a weekend consultation. They are committing millennia of their existence to help stabilize one very confused, very broken world.
Now, you said usually, as the name implies, they observe, they watch, but the source got really interesting for me when it mentioned that they have the power to seize absolute control.
They do.
They aren't just taking notes in the back of the room.
No. In times of what the book calls grave planetary crisis, the Most High Observer becomes the regent. He can and does take direct command of the spiritual administration.
And the source says this has happened 33 times.
Yes, 33 such crises in our planet's history, where the CEO had to grab the wheel and steer the ship directly.
Do we know what those crises were?
It doesn't detail all of them, but it gives us clues. We're talking about moments where the actual survival of civilization or even the survival of spiritual truth itself hung in the balance.
Like the example it gives of Makaventa Melchizedek during the time of Abraham.
That's the perfect example. That was a moment roughly 4,000 years ago where the concept of the one God monotheism was just flickering out. It was about to vanish completely from human consciousness.
The world was sliding back into polytheism and superstition.
Entirely. And if that flame had gone out, the spiritual progress of the planet might have been set back tens of thousands of years. That constitutes a spiritual emergency. It required direct emergency intervention from a higher power.
So we have free will. We are absolutely allowed to make a mess of things.
Absolutely.
There are guardrails.
There is a floor to the chaos. The Most High Observer is there to ensure we don't completely and irrevocably destroy the potential for spiritual growth on the planet.
So something like, I don't know, a nuclear exchange that threatens to wipe out all higher life, that would likely be another trigger for this regency power.
You'd have to assume so. The universe respects our freedom to be foolish, but the source implies it does not respect our freedom to commit suicide as a species. There's a line.
Okay, so that makes sense. We have the Most High Observer, who is like the distant, powerful authority from the constellation, the superintendent. But then there's this other figure mentioned, the resident governor general. And this part blew my mind because this person used to be human.
This is one of the most, I think, comforting aspects of the whole structure. The resident governor general is a member of the 24 counselors from our system capital, a place called Jerusalem.
And those counselors are?
They're all former mortals, ascended beings, people who lived, breathed, struggled, and died on planets just like Earth, some of them on Earth itself.
So they get it.
They get it. They've been through the whole mortal experience. And now one of them rotates back to Earth to serve as the chief executive of the provisional government.
Wait. So the person running the day-to-day spiritual affairs of the planet is someone who actually knows what it's like to pay taxes and stub their toe.
Essentially, yes, they have walked the path. But their authority comes from who they represent.
And who is that?
They represent Christ Michael, who the source identifies as Jesus of Nazareth.
So let me get this straight. Jesus, who the book says is the creator son of our entire local universe. He has a personal representative stationed on Earth at all times.
Yes, because this is the planet where he lived his final bestowal life. He has a unique, personal, and enduring attachment to Urantia. The resident governor general acts as his proxy, his direct representative.
So you have this really interesting dual system.
You do. You have the Most High Observer, who represents the constellation and the judicial authority, sort of the cold, hard law of the universe.
The head.
And then you have the resident governor general, who represents the local universe, the personal love of the creator son.
That's heart.
The heart, exactly. And they work together.
And they have checks and balances. I mean, I loved that detail. Even in a celestial government, there's veto power.
It's a profound lesson for us, isn't it? Even beings we would consider perfect or near perfect do not rule by unilateral fiat. The resident governor general is the executive, but his decisions are subject to the veto of the Most High Observer.
And they talk every day?
They hold daily consultative conferences. They discuss, they deliberate, they come to a consensus.
I have to ask, why do they need to deliberate if they're these super intelligent, enlightened beings? Don't they just know the right answer instantly?
It implies that wisdom is a collective process, not a unilateral one. It's about perspective. But more importantly, it prevents the concentration of power.
Which, if we remember, was the very thing that caused the rebellion in the first place.
Precisely. Pride, isolation, and the refusal to submit to group wisdom. That was the core of the Lucifer Rebellion. So by enforcing cooperation and consultation at the very highest level of our planet's government, they have built a system that is, in its essence, rebellion-proof.
Wow. So the administration itself models the very behavior they want us to learn. Cooperation, humility, mutual respect.
It's a government of laws and consultation, not of arbitrary whims. And that's the foundation of everything that follows.
Okay, so that's the administration. That's the top brass, the observer and the governor general. But then the source pivots to a group that I think most people are probably the most curious about, the archangels.
Right.
Now, usually when I hear archangel, I think of, Michael or Gabriel, a guy with a flaming sword guarding a gate or maybe blowing a trumpet at the end of the world. But the source paints a very different picture.
It does. It's much more, I guess, technical. In this context, the archangels have a very specific remit. They are not the government of the world in the political or administrative sense.
What are they then?
They are the guardians of the soul. Their primary, all-consuming concern is the ascension plan.
The ascension plan being survival after death.
Yes, the career of the individual mortal. While the planetary government is worrying about nations and wars and civilizations and the broad strokes of history, the archangels are worrying about you.
Me, personally.
Yeah, personally. They ensure that every single human being who desires eternal life, who has even a flicker of faith, gets the assistance they need to survive physical death and wake up on what the book calls the mansion worlds.
And they set up shop here relatively recently in the grand scheme of things, right?
That's right. The source states their divisional headquarters was established on this planet on the day of Pentecost.
That's a direct link to the resurrection of Jesus. That can't be a coincidence.
It's not. It signals a major shift in the spiritual economy of the planet. Before that event, the focus was very heavy on group survival, the preservation of the messianic line, things like that.
Collective.
The collective. After Pentecost, individual salvation, the personal religious experience, became the #1 priority. And here is the fascinating nuance. The archangels operate independently of the Most High Observer.
Really? So the observer can seize control of the entire planet's administration, but he can't boss the archangels around.
In matters of the ascension plan, no. He has no jurisdiction. It suggests that the spiritual career of the individual is so sacred, so vitally important, that it's insulated from all the political or administrative ups and downs of the planet.
So governments can rise and fall, civilizations can collapse, the planet could go through another dark age.
But the archangels ensure that the pathway to the next world remains open and protected, no matter what.
That is incredibly reassuring. It's like having a dedicated emergency lifeline that completely bypasses all the bureaucracy. No matter how bad the government gets, the rescue team operates on its own set of orders.
It's the ultimate safety net. It means your spiritual fate is not tied to the fate of your nation or your culture or your planet's leadership. It is strictly between you and the divine, with the archangels facilitating the logistics.
All right, let's get into the workforce. This, for me, was the real meat of this deep dive. The source lists 12 distinct corps of Master Seraphim.
The departments, so to speak.
Right. And just to be super clear for the listener, these are not guardian angels for individuals, right? That's a different thing.
That is a crucial distinction, yes. We are told elsewhere in the source that every human has personal guardian seraphim that attend to the individual's needs. These Master Seraphim, however, are planetary angels. They work on the macro level.
So they're like the different departments of the Celestial Civil Service, the Department of Health, the Department of Education, Industry, State, and so on.
That's the perfect way to think about it. They work to foster civilization as a whole.
There are 12 groups, and I really want to go through them because each one gives us such a cool insight into how the spiritual world views our problems. The first group is the Apocal Angels.
The angels of the current age. Their job is integration. They look at the current generation, our generation, and they try to fit all of our crazy, chaotic events into the larger mosaic of the spiritual age we're living in.
So the source mentioned they deal with the current context. Right now, that means these angels are dealing with the internet, with AI, with smartphone addiction, the sheer speed of everything.
They are dealing with the acceleration of information. Think about the stress of modern life. I mean, we are living through a transition that is happening so much faster than our biology can keep up with.
No kidding.
The Apocal Angels are the stabilizers. They're trying to harmonize these new realities with the old truth, ensuring that we don't collectively snap under the pressure of constant rapid change.
So when you feel like the world is just spinning too fast, but you somehow manage to find your footing, that might be their influence.
That is their ministry, helping the mind of the age adjust to the facts of the age. They work to prevent the social fabric from tearing completely apart during these times of radical transition.
Okay, that's group one. Then we have group two, the Progress Angels. These guys sound like the agitators, but in a good way.
They are. They are the angels of future social evolution.
Yeah.
Their mission is beautifully described in the text. It's to make things what they ought to be.
What they ought to be, that phrasing. It implies there's a standard, there's a goal we are supposed to be moving towards.
It implies that there is objective morality. Social progress isn't just a random drift. It's movement toward a specific preordained ideal of justice and compassion.
But their method is key. It says they don't force things. They don't mind control leaders into being just. They manipulate circumstances. How does that work? And give me an example of manipulating circumstances versus forcing a change.
Well, okay, they can't force a plantation owner in the 1800s to suddenly hate slavery. That would be a gross violation of his free will.
Right.
But what they can do is coordinate events so that the abolitionist movement gains traction. They can ensure that the right book, say Uncle Tom's Cabin, gets published at exactly the right time to shift public opinion.
Ah, I see.
They act as the invisible momentum behind every great leap forward in human dignity. They can't start the fire themselves, but when a human strikes a match of courage, they are there to pour gasoline on it.
It really makes you look at history differently. Maybe those pivotal tipping points weren't just luck. Maybe the reason the good guys won in certain moments wasn't just demographics or economics.
It suggests that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice because there are actual intelligent beings leaning on it.
I like that. Okay, next is group three, the religious guardians. And the source was very, very emphatic here. They are not sectarian.
This is absolutely vital to understand. They are not the angels of the Baptists or the angels of the Buddhists or the angels of Islam. They are the guardians of values.
What's the distinction?
Their goal is to preserve the essential spiritual truth, that there is a God, that we are spiritual beings, that love is the supreme law, while allowing the forms of religion, the rituals and dogmas, to evolve or fade away.
The source says they try to prevent meaningless, controversial divisions.
Which we are really, really good at creating, unfortunately.
We are world champions at it. We'll fight a war over how to wear a hat or what day to fast on or what name to call God.
Exactly. We fight over the rituals, the names, the dates, the buildings. We fight over the shell. The angels are constantly trying to get us to focus on the kernel of truth inside the shell.
So they want a religion that unites, not one that divides.
They are pushing us, gently but constantly, toward a religion of the spirit, rather than a religion of the mind.
So whenever you see, say, an interfaith movement succeeding, or just people from different backgrounds realizing, hey, maybe we believe in the same God after all, that's the work of the religious guardians.
Yes, they are trying to build bridges across the gaps that we dig.
Okay. Group 4 is the angels of national life. The angels of the trumpets. This sounds like the political desk.
This is international relations. And on a planet like Urantia, this has got to be a tough gig.
I can only imagine.
Their primary focus is moving humanity from tribalism, my country right or wrong, my tribe first, toward genuine global cooperation. They effectively oversee the concept of national sovereignty.
But again, the source says they can't override free will. They can't stop a war if we're really determined to have one.
No, they can't. They cannot stop a dictator from invading a neighbor if that dictator and his people are determined to do so. That is the tragedy and the reality of free will. But they work to prevent catastrophic outcomes. They might influence the reaction of other nations to contain the conflict, or they can work to ensure that a localized conflict doesn't spiral into a species-ending planet-wide event. They're always playing the long game of political evolution.
So they're doing constant damage control.
Constant damage control. They're trying to keep the international order just stable enough for civilization to survive, while gently nudging us toward the eventual realization that we are one planet, one people. They are the ultimate diplomats working behind the scenes.
Let's move to Group 5, the angels of the crises. This one feels sensitive, especially in our current climate.
It does.
Yeah.
But the perspective is really illuminating. It touches on the conservation of the evolutionary races. They work with beings called the race commissioners.
And their perspective is?
It's that the different racial groups of humanity are not sources of conflict, but are unique reservoirs of ability, temperament, and perspective.
So from this point of view, racial injustice isn't just a social failing, it's an actual obstruction of the divine plan.
Absolutely. The view is that every ethnic group, every lineage has a unique contribution to make to the whole of humanity, a specific flavor, if you will.
A color in the mosaic.
Perfect. A color in the mosaic. If you suppress or destroy a people, you are robbing the final picture of humanity of a specific color or texture that was intended to be there. These angels work to preserve the positive heritage of all peoples.
It really elevates the argument for diversity, doesn't it? It's not just about political correctness, it's about biological and spiritual completeness.
Correct. We need all the parts to build the final machine of a perfected global civilization. If we discard or destroy one of the parts, the whole machine is less than what it was designed to be.
Okay, then we have Group 6, the angels of the future. The projection angels. This sounds very sci-fi.
It does, but they're the architects. These angels are essentially the planetary strategic planners. They're running simulations.
Simulations?
They forecast probabilities. They see the potentials that we can't see yet. They aren't just looking at the next election cycle. They are looking at the next age, the next millennium.
Are they predicting the future? Like, do they know who wins the Super Bowl in 2050?
It's more like weather forecasting than fortune telling. They analyze the currents of society. They see where the trends are leading, and they adjust the celestial plans based on the choices we make today.
So it's a dynamic system.
It's very dynamic. It's a responsive planning system. If humanity collectively takes a sharp left turn into some foolishness, these angels immediately recalculate the route to try and get us back on track. They are the GPS of the planetary administration.
Group 7, the angels of enlightenment. This one feels very relevant to what we're doing here on the deep dive.
Indeed it does. Their domain is education and moral training. But the source highlights a specific struggle they face right now in our time.
And what's that?
The paradox of abundant information but scarce wisdom.
We are drowning in data. I feel that every single day.
We are. But we are starving for meaning. We have more access to facts than any generation in history. But are we wiser? Are we more moral? These angels are fighting that epidemic of shallowness.
So where do we see them at work?
They are present in those moments. You know, when you've been wrestling with a concept and suddenly it all just clicks,
Yeah.
when you connect the dots, when you understand something deep, when you move from knowing a list of facts to understanding a profound truth, you are resonating with their ministry.
So they are the enemies of the hot take and the doom scroll.
They are the patrons of deep thinking. They want us to process information, not just consume it and regurgitate it.
Group 8, the angels of health. Now, this one had a fascinating backstory involving Adam and Eve. We probably need to explain the default briefly again.
Right. So in the Urantia story, Adam and Eve were biological uplifters. They were meant to come here and literally improve our DNA, making the human race more resistant to disease, more emotionally stable, longer lived.
But their mission failed. They defaulted.
They did. And because of that, humanity didn't get that full biological upgrade.
Yeah.
The result is that we are, as a species, physically weaker and more prone to disease than we were supposed to be. We are operating at a biological deficit.
So these angels of health are the compensation for that.
Exactly. They assist doctors, researchers, public health officials, anyone working to improve human well-being. Now, they can't break natural law. They won't magically make a cancer tumor vanish in a puff of smoke if the biology dictates otherwise.
No miracles.
No miracles in that sense. But they can inspire the researcher staring into the microscope. They can guide the surgeon's hand. They can help shape a more effective public health strategy. They are the silent partners in every medical breakthrough.
That's a really cool way to think about it. That when a scientist has that sudden breakthrough, it might be because an angel of health nudged their attention to the right slide at the right moment.
It harmonizes science and spirit. They aren't opposed. The angels want us to be healthy because it's hard to focus on spiritual growth when you are constantly sick or in pain.
Very true. Okay, group 9, the home seraphim.
These are the angels dedicated to the family. And the source makes a powerful statement here. It calls the home the basic institution of civilization.
Not the government, not the church, but the home.
That's right. The idea is if the home fails, everything else eventually crumbles. You can have a great government and a booming economy, but if the family unit is broken, the society will rot from the inside out.
So what do these angels do?
They focus on the relationships within the family. And given the whole tone of the book, this isn't about enforcing one rigid, specific definition of what a family looks like.
No.
It's about the home as the incubator for morality and love. It's the first place we learn or fail to learn how to be human. It's where we learn forgiveness and sharing and how to serve someone other than ourselves. These angels try to protect that sacred space from the corrosion of the outside world.
Group 10, the angels of industry. And here is a fun fact from the source. This group has been reassigned 7 times since the time of Jesus.
That is a high turnover rate.
It really is. What does that tell us?
It reflects the incredible volatility of human economics. I mean, just think of how much our economic life has changed in 2,000 years. We went from agrarian to feudal to mercantile to industrial to digital.
It's a new world every few centuries.
Or every few decades now.
Yeah.
Every time we completely reinvent how we make a living, these angels have to completely reorganize their entire department. It must be a constant headache.
So what's their goal?
Their goal is to foster economic development that serves human welfare, rather than exploitation. And that is a constant uphill battle. They're pushing for a system where industry uplifts everyone rather than crushing the many to enrich the few. They're promoting industrial justice.
Group 11, the angels of diversion. This is my favorite, angels of play.
It is a wonderful, wonderful inclusion, and it tells us something profound theologically. It tells us that God is not a stern, sour-faced taskmaster. Joy is divine.
I love that.
These angels promote play, humor, and rest. They are the patrons of leisure.
So they believe leisure isn't wasted time.
They know it's not. It is necessary for spiritual and mental health. If you are just grinding 24/7, if you are obsessed with productivity and efficiency, you start to act as if you are a machine. But you're not a machine. You are a soul.
And a soul needs to rest.
It needs to laugh. It needs to play. It needs to create art, to listen to music, to hike in the woods. These angels validate the fundamental human need for recreation and relaxation.
So when you take a vacation, you are actually doing holy work.
In a very real sense, yes.
Yeah.
You're restoring the balance of your soul, which allows you to be a better person when you return to your work.
Finally, group 12, the angels of superhuman ministry. What's this?
These are the angels for the angels.
Get out.
I'm serious. It shows that even these incredible celestial beings get tired. Even they need coordination, support, and ministry. It paints a picture of the universe as a vast web of mutual service. Nobody is so high that they are above needing help, except perhaps the Universal Father himself.
Everyone else serves and is served.
It's a closed loop of care. A beautiful concept.
So that's the workforce, the 12 departments. It's comforting, really, to know there is a department of play and a department of health. It makes the universe feel so much more organized and benevolent.
It does.
But then the source pivots to something that feels, well, it feels almost like a spy novel, the reserve corps of destiny.
This is the human element. This is the intersection where the celestial administration actually recruits us into the plan.
And the source gets incredibly specific here. It says there are exactly 962 members of this corps on Earth right now.
Not about 1,000. Not 1,962,000.
Divided into 12 groups, each one corresponding to one of the 12 Seraphic corps we just discussed.
That's right. So there's a group of human reservists working with the angels of health, another with the angels of industry, and so on.
Okay, so who are they? This is the question everyone asks. Are they the billionaires, the presidents, the popes, the big-name influencers?
Rarely. The source is very clear that they are usually ordinary people. They aren't famous. They aren't seeking power. In fact, a conscious desire for power would likely disqualify you from consideration.
So what are the criteria then? How does a person get drafted into this secret celestial army?
The source lists three main things. First, you need a capacity for what it calls secret rehearsal. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Second, you must have a wholehearted dedication to some noble cause, but without any desire for personal recognition or applause.
Yeah.
Third, you need to possess a very experienced thought adjuster, which is the book's term for the fragment of God, the divine spark that lives within the human mind.
Okay, let's stop on that secret rehearsal and no recognition part. The source makes a massive, massive distinction here between the reserve corps and what people typically call channeling or mediumship.
This is a critical point to understand. In popular culture, a channeler is someone who closes their eyes, maybe speaks in a funny voice, and says, "I am Archangel Michael. Hear my message for the world."
Right. They know they're doing it. They're conscious of it.
They're conscious of it, they remember it, and they usually sell tickets, write books about it, or build a following around it. It feeds the ego. It makes them feel special. I am the chosen one because I talk to spirit.
And the reserve corps is the complete opposite of that.
The total opposite. The training, the secret rehearsal for the reserve corps happens unconsciously. It happens usually during sleep in what the book calls the deep mind.
And when the reservist wakes up.
They have no memory of the meeting. They have no conscious idea that they are in the corps.
Why? Why keep them in the dark? Why not just tell them, hey, congratulations, you work for the angels now?
To protect them from their own ego. Think about it. If you really knew with absolute certainty that you were a divinely appointed agent of the planetary government, it would be almost impossible to remain humble.
You'd start to think your every opinion was God's law.
You would become insufferable. You'd become a fanatic. The knowledge of your own specialness would ruin the very quality that made you useful in the first place.
So effective service requires ignorance of one's own status.
Precisely. They serve because they love the truth, not because they think they're special agents. The source is very specific that of the 962 members, less than 20 of them, who are called contact personalities, have any conscious awareness of their role. So for the other 940-plus members, it is total radio silence.
Total silence. They just go about their life. So how do they function? If they don't know they are agents, how are they activated? This is the mechanic I still struggle with.
They function through intuition and conviction. The Reserve Corps is an emergency service. They are activated during crises. Let's say there is a critical situation. A peace negotiation is about to fall apart, or a priceless piece of vital historical information is in a library that's about to be burned down.
Okay.
A reservist, who might be a diplomat in the first case or a librarian in the second, might feel a sudden, powerful, unshakable conviction to do something.
Like what?
I absolutely need to go to this meeting right now. I need to save this specific obscure book from that shelf. I need to say this exact phrase to this person at this moment. They don't hear a voice in their head commanding them.
They just feel it.
They feel it as their own desire, their own intense, unexplainable intuition.
They think it's their own idea.
They do. But it's actually the result of all that unconscious training bubbling up from the deep mind into their consciousness. They act on it, the crisis is averted, the data is saved, and then they go on with their lives, never knowing they were the fulcrum upon which history just turned.
That is that is so cool. It democratizes the whole thing. You don't have to be a guru on a mountain. You just have to be a good, dedicated, humble person.
And you have to be willing to do the work without the applause. That is the hallmark. If you are only doing good when other people are watching, you are not reservist material.
Now let's zoom back out for a second to the administration itself. Part 5 of our outline covers the general operations. We talked about the daily conferences between the top guys, but I want to touch on the conciliating commissions.
Right. These are essentially celestial tribunals.
A court system for angels.
In a way, yes, because disagreements can happen. Even angels can have different opinions on the best method to help humanity on a complex issue. One group might say, the situation requires a radical revolution, and another group might say, no, that's too disruptive. We need slow, patient evolution.
And these commissions settle the dispute.
They do. They are described as traveling courts that hear the arguments and render a decision. And their decisions are respected throughout the entire universe. It just adds another layer to this picture of a government of law and order, not just mystical vibes. The universe is a constitutional monarchy, not a free-for-all.
But the emotional core of this chapter, and really the main takeaway for me, and I think for anyone listening, was the section titled, Not a Cosmic Orphan.
It is the heart of the entire message.
There is a quote in the source that I actually wrote down because it hit me so hard. It says, "You mortals now dwelling on Urantia are just as lovingly cherished and just as faithfully watched over as if the sphere had never been betrayed. Even more so."
Even more so. That's the phrase, isn't it? That's the part that just catches in your throat.
It is. What does that mean to you? Why more? Why would the universe care more about the planet that screwed up, the one that rebelled?
Well, think about a family with several children, and one child gets very sick, or maybe one child goes astray and gets into serious trouble. Where does the parent's attention go? Does it go to the safe, healthy children who are playing happily in the yard?
No, it goes to the one in danger.
It focuses intensely on the one in danger. Urantia is the trouble spot of our local system. We are the planet that had the rebellion, that had the biological default, that lives in spiritual confusion. We are the sick child.
So because of that,
the universe has poured more resources, more love, and more attention into us. We are not shunned. We are not forgotten. We are the object of the most intense solicitude.
the source then lists the investments that have been made in us. We had the life carriers who designed our biology. We had Adam and Eve. We had Melchizedek.
And ultimately, we had the Creator's Son himself, Christ Michael, the ruler of millions of worlds. But when he decided to incarnate as a mortal to complete his own experience, he didn't choose a perfect, peaceful world where everyone gets along and sings hymns all day.
He chose Urantia.
He chose the difficult assignment. He chose the darkest place to shine the brightest light. That's how much this world is valued.
It really just flips the script completely. Instead of feeling like we are in the bad neighborhood of the universe that God forgot about, this says we are actually in the VIP ward of the cosmic hospital, getting the best care possible.
That is a very, very apt analogy. And this entire administration, the Observer, the Governor General, all 12 corps of Seraphim, the archangels, they are the hospital staff working around the clock for our recovery. They are not our jailers. They are our healers.
So let's bring this all home for the listener. We've covered the hierarchy, the departments of angels, the secret human agents. It's a lot of information. How does knowing all this change how I walk down the street tomorrow?
I think, first and foremost, it changes your perspective from one of isolation to one of connection. When you see the chaos on the news, you can remember, this is not the whole story. There are angels of national life working behind the scenes to mitigate this. There is a Governor General overseeing this.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of calm behind the storm.
And it validates our own small efforts, doesn't it?
Yes, this is crucial. Every time you choose truth over a lie, every time you show mercy to someone, every time you create something beautiful, every time you just play with your kids or do your job with integrity, you are not acting in a vacuum.
You're aligning yourself with this massive team.
Exactly. You are aligning yourself with the angels of enlightenment, or the angels of progress, or the angels of diversion, or the home seraphim. You are co-creating with them.
You are a junior partner in the planetary government.
You are a junior partner on the team. You're on the team.
I love that. We are all junior partners.
And I have one final thought on the Reserve Corps, if I may. We mentioned that these reservists act on unshakable convictions without knowing why. I would just ask the listener to think about this. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever had a sudden, inexplicable, powerful drive to do something good, to make a specific choice that didn't seem to come from your normal logical mind, but it felt absolutely necessary.
Like a nudge from somewhere that you just couldn't ignore. A powerful pull to help someone, or go somewhere specific, or say something you wouldn't normally say.
Exactly. Maybe, just maybe, in that moment, you weren't just being impulsive. Maybe you were being activated. Maybe, for a fleeting second, you were part of the plan.
That is definitely something to chew on. We are part of something so much bigger, so much more organized and loving than we can possibly see. Thank you for walking us through this incredible blueprint.
It was my pleasure. It's an amazing document.
And thank you all for listening. Keep your eyes open, keep your mind deep, and remember, you are definitely not alone. We'll see you on the next deep dive.